Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heads and Dovetails with myself, Jill Harvey-Bush, and Jamie Hubbard. But our little regular listeners will know that, Jamie, won't they? So
Yeah,
I just say it for anybody in the hope that we have somebody new, a new person subscribing to us.
you never know. You never know.
Absolutely. I got one new subscriber on my YouTube channel. Woohoo, I'm nearly
Have
into
you?
I'm nearly into double figures. And Clive's still stuck on his 199 and be like, please,
Is
one
he?
more
Oh,
person. But anyway, it's actually the 1,000 is the target. Today you want to do something different. You came across something on YouTube, didn't you? My Sir
yes.
Anthony Hopkins said, and you said, you sent it to me and said, could we chat about this? So I'm going to hand it all over to you now, and off you go.
Right. Well, if anybody knows Sir Anthony Hopkins, or he's the actor, obviously, who did Silence of the Lambs and all sorts of other things. Very, very good actor, Welsh guy. He's really, really good on social media. Very good on social media. As in, he puts a lot of content out there. He's a very, very positive man. He believes in manifestation sort of things. You keep
Hmm.
saying it, so you get rid of the negative stuff, don't do the negative stuff, which I'm sure you'll agree with some of that.
Hmm.
And I just like some of the things he puts out there. And he put out a picture the other day, an image of himself, and it was a blooming good black and white image. So I mean, he always looks blooming good, doesn't he? I think sometimes we do look, men and women sometimes. I've got to be careful what I say. The older we get, the more our face gets into our personality. We look, I don't know.
Well,
Anyhow,
I think it does at the moment, but I think for maybe the generation below us who are having facelifts and Botox, and
uh,
maybe as they grow older, their face, well, then again, is it a reflection of them? But that's a whole other discussion.
yeah,
So we'll not go there.
right.
I'll attempt
So
not to digress.
yeah, and I'm terrible for just wandering off. Sorry. And he says, my philosophy is this. And I think before I carry on, I want to pull this apart a bit because I know you will
Hmm.
pull and we'll take a sentence and then it's the last part for me that really does it. So
Okay.
my philosophy is this. What people say about me is none of my business. I am who I am and do what I do. I expect nothing and accept everything. And that makes life easier. We live in a world where funerals are more important than the deceased, marriage is more important than love, looks are more important than the soul. We live in a packaging culture that despises content.
Mm.
And I'm sure everybody will take something from that, from a different part of that. And it's just that tagline really at the end where we live in a packaging culture that despises content. And you see people with, I mean, have heard about, let's just go to the tech side.
Yeah.
Shown, somebody's got an iPhone, the new one, and they've shown one from 4 or 5 phones ago and said, my phone from 4 phones ago, because he's upgraded to this new one, I can do this with a picture. And he shows you. And he says, and the new one can't do it. So why can't the new one focus on this, whereas the old one can? Why is that an upgrade? And it's again, it's the packaging. It's the new
Yeah.
one. It's this, that, the other. It might be better with some things, but it's actually worse
Worse than
at doing
other.
other things. When really evolution and it should, things like that should be getting better, and it should still. And it wasn't a complicated thing. It should have just done it. But then you think about some people. I mean, my house is very much a building site. It has been for a long time, and when I've got the mortgage clear, and a part of the reason for me doing YouTube is I will be doing parts of the house and bits of and I will be showing it on YouTube, and hopefully by then I'll have a bit of revenue that might help me do that. So
Mm.
it's a plan. It's not a perfect plan, but some people might. I know some people might say buy a house, have everything done to that house before they move in. Everything gutted, kitchen, bathroom, painted, decorated, roof done, solar panels, everything done to
You're
that house.
describing our house.
No, I'm not, because you do yours, but you've moved, didn't you sort of move it? No,
We
well,
moved in and yeah,
and then you
and
did
did it
things. And I
around
think if you,
us. Yes.
that's evolving.
Yeah.
I'm all for the evolving process. But I think before somebody's actually moved in,
Mm,
saying we want this, we want that, how do you know you want this, you want
mm,
that? How do you? And all they've done, or some people that might have done that, is massive debt.
correct.
And then we live in packaging culture that despises content. The content of that would be the packaging culture of that analogy would be that the house looks brilliant and all done, but that the content at the base level, it is mental health wise and debt wise,
Mm,
that's gonna cost a
yeah.
lot, a lot more than just the money. Um, I love what he says at the beginning, but I- I'd like to say, what is he, 80 something? He's got to be 80 something.
Something like that, I think.
What people say about me is none of my business. I tell you what, to be able to think like that and to be able to almost let go of what people think about me hurts me.
Well, again, I think that's the
Oh,
sentence that I want to pull
is it?
apart.
Go
Yes,
on.
that's the sentence that I want to pull apart because there's
And
a very,
the next
yeah, go
bit as
on.
well. I am who I am. I do what I do. I expect nothing. I expect nothing and accept everything. That's what makes life easier. I mean, this is his quote, so it's a
Yeah, I
go on.
agree. But there's a version of that everybody says what everybody says about you is none of your business, and other people's opinion of you is none of your business. Actually, I'm going to slightly disagree with that
Yeah.
because otherwise we have no kind of moral compass. A
Yes.
compass
Yeah.
in terms of, well, I don't care if somebody says I'm,
Ah,
a thief or a this or a that. So then that allows me to go on doing it, doesn't it? Because
exactly.
actually, I don't care what people think. So therefore, I can be a murderer, a thief, a shoplifter, because I don't care what people think. And for me, it's not about not caring about it. It's how you react to it. It's your response to it.
Yes.
Now, for me, I if somebody does say something, and we tend to think, oh, is that negative rather than positive? So if you're saying I don't care what people say about me, then you're not caring about anybody saying anything nice about you
Yeah.
or complimenting you, and actually, as humans, we look for that kind of reassurance.
Hmm.
So for me, it's more about actually, particularly the word when you change the word for other people's opinions of you, actually, I think they do matter because that's how you improve. So somebody's opinion
Yeah.
of me can be, okay, I can take that, is how I react to it. If it upsets me, then I start to look, okay, what is it that triggered that in me?
Hmm.
Is there something, do I believe this to be true? Do I think this is based in something I have done? So it helps me question in a positive way
Yeah.
rather than a negative way.
Yes.
And I think we're too quick these days, a part of the council culture.
Yeah.
So if I don't like what you say, I cancel you. I don't want anything to do with you. And we're not allowing for growth. We're not allowing for discussion.
Yes.
We're not digging in a little bit deeper as to what is going on in your world. So for me, it becomes this whole big subject, as you can see, that goes, actually, what's going on in your
Yeah.
world to
Yeah.
make you say that, react to that? And if I'm just
Yes.
going to dismiss you and pay no attention to it, well, then am I missing being able to help you? I saw something
Yeah.
literally before I came on with you, and it was a guy, I think, an author doing a talk, with the launch of his book,
Hmm.
and a bit of an intoxicated guy comes into the room, and rather than getting removed by security, etc., he says, oh, hi, sort of, who are you? And he said, oh, well, I've interrupted your audience. And the author kind of says, but you are my audience because you're in the room. He said, so you're also part of my audience. And
Yeah.
he tells the guy to come. He said, oh, everybody's listening to me. And he said, yes, they are. Come up the front. Come and have a chat with me. And he asked him his name. And the guy then asked the author his name. And then he says, I want to give you, the guy who interrupted. So I just want to give you a hug. So he gave this guy a big hug and just was on his way type thing. And I thought that was somebody who was more interested.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, we're not just looking at the packaging, we're looking at what's underneath
Yes.
it. So
Yes.
I agree with it on one level
Yes.
that said I'm not going to and I don't care what people say. Well, I'm interested, maybe the word don't care, just so that I can then look at my own reaction
Yeah.
and go, okay, is there something I can learn from what they're saying? Is there some way that I can
Yes,
grow from what that person's saying? So I agree. The older you get, the easier it is to do, Jamie. I
I
would
think it
absolutely
is.
agree
I
with
think it is.
that.
The thing that I mean, from that first line, the one thing that I would take from it is, well, there's two things. The first one would be, if people are saying negative things towards me, say if there's one person
Mm,
um, saying negative things, well, if they're saying, if there's no positive in that negativity, just okay, take it with a pinch of salt. If there then becomes some positive within that conversation, it's just oh, okay, but you've got a different way of looking at this, whatever.
mm,
The other thing can be, well, if there's a dozen people saying the same sort of thing, right, hang on a sec. I've
yeah,
got quite a lot of this traffic coming my way.
yeah,
What am I doing? It's then a reflection of, well, I'm putting out and this is coming back and it doesn't look good. So is that a reflection of what I'm doing and or me? So I think we've got to be, you have got to think about, but I do like that it's none of my business. I had somebody yesterday on my YouTube channel on that video that's gone, I'm going to say viral, over 300,000 views now. And he put something like, I wish I could find it. I wish I got quick enough on my phone to find it, but it was something like, this is absolute rubbish. You haven't got a clue. And I was just like, what? So this is me burning the briquette, making the briquettes, but I didn't show burning them. What a waste! And I said something. I said, do you want to elaborate on that? What a waste of a video. What a waste of hundreds of thousands of people's hours. And I was just like, what are you on about? And he said, you can't do this and you can't do that. And anyway, it was quite very negative. And I was engaging in a bit of dialogue to try and get him to explain because he was very abrupt and very. And then after four messages from him, I just thought, sorry, mate, you're just really angry. You're not happy about something.
mm,
And you are, out of 300,000 views, you are probably the third person that's been really, really against what I'm doing, totally
yeah,
against what I'm doing, and not understand what I'm doing, which is basically my waste heats the house. We've got no gas to do it now.
yeah,
So why shouldn't I do that? And the other thing is, which I did say, is this isn't for me, just me, UK in a house. This has provided help for people in Gambia and Ghana and all sorts of places around the world. So if what I'm doing is helping others in actually stay alive, stay warm, and he was just so, and I just thought, mate, it's you, it's not me. So I
yeah.
deleted his comment, removed it.
I agree with you, and I'm not saying it you should take everything on board,
Yes,
but I
exactly.
think
It's levels, isn't
there
it?
is a yes, there's a balance
Yeah,
as to what you do. And
yeah,
sometimes when you can engage with somebody, you can often discover there's a deeper thing
yes.
behind it. Difficult when it's on social media and it's just by
Oh yeah,
texting to be able to do that. And I think that's all part of the bigger discussion about communication in society and how
yeah,
we're very quick to become very polarized on our own views, our own thoughts. And I do agree, it's none of my business. If that's what you think, that's what you
yeah.
think. I can't stop you from thinking that. But I also love the quote that says, be the person that when somebody says something horrible about you, nobody believes it.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's living to your own standard, really, isn't it? It's this is what I do, this is how I live my life. You want to live like yours like that, then go ahead.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, on one level, I absolutely agree it's none of my business. But on another level, I think, particularly if it is when you're running a business and you're getting a whole load of feedback
Mhm.
that, I don't know, you're running a cafe and you ought to serve chips and you ought to serve chips and you ought to serve chips and and you're going, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, and then wonder why your business isn't doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very basic kind of
But
analogy. Then
yeah,
actually, those sorts of comments do matter, in my view. So, it's an interesting one, Jamie. But
it
yeah, I
is.
have a slightly when I hear that these days, I kind of go, "Oh,
Yeah.
I want to caveat
And
this."
sometimes the problem with some of these quotes is it touches on three different things.
Yes.
So I see the bit that I like and say, oh, I like that. And I'll send it to you and you'll go, oh, but and I'm just like, no, hang on. I wasn't bothered about it. That bit was okay. It's the bit at the bottom I really like. And then you have to explain yourself. What
But
do you think?
that's ultimately what I'm talking about, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is that
you have
we
to,
can have one little thing like that and
yes.
look at all the different point of views and what people will read in it depending on who they are.
Well, let's just take another bit, another clip then. We live, I mean, I've got to be careful because we've got a funeral going on soon and
We have as well.
we've got some upset going on. So I want to leave the funerals is more important than the deceased. I think we should just, but marriage is more important than love. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I can feel that sometimes.
Uh,
Jokingly. Sorry,
well,
wedding anniversary today, so I've got to tread carefully as well.
happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Again, I think when you're saying marriage is more important than love, it depends on, again, I'd want to
Yeah,
question a little bit more, which you can't when somebody comes out. And somebody he's probably said,
yeah,
for all we know, this has probably been a quote when he's being interviewed that somebody then delves into deeper and he then explains it a little bit more.
yes.
And sometimes, yes, the marriage, the wedding, how many people do you know have enormous weddings and get into debt over it? And
That's the thing.
because that's
Yeah,
what I want. And
yeah.
actually, it's not the love. It's when I think for me, that's more about the marriage. Oh, yes, I've got to get married because all my friends are getting married and everybody's doing it,
Yes.
rather than that
It's more
much
important than
deeper
love.
level
Yeah. And it
of
could, and
love.
the other side of that, I'm doing a Jill here. Sorry, Jill. The other side of that could be marriage is more important to get a green card,
Yes. Do
to
you see? There's so
marry, to
many.
get out of your
Correct.
circumstances,
Exactly.
to marry, to move countries, to do to all sorts of things.
It can be that oh God, I'm getting old and I'm waiting for Mr. Right, and I'll settle
Yeah,
for Mr. Or Mr. or Mrs. Okay rather than Mr. Right, because the marriage, it could be that my value for security is really important.
yeah,
My value for having a partner is really important for feeling safe. So it's meeting other criteria
yeah.
other than I really love this guy. It could be, dare I say, financial.
Oh,
Like
blimey,
let's be
yes.
honest. When you look at some partnerships, you kind of go, I think it's that lovely quote. And I'm not saying Debbie McGee didn't like or love Paul Daniels because she did, but it was that lovely quote from Mrs. Merton on her show.
Yes.
Now,
What?
Debbie McGee, what was it that made you fall in love or marry the millionaire, the
Yeah,
multimillionaire Paul Daniels?
yeah,
So we do see that. You can see. They might well love each other passionately, but then you see the likes of Bernie Ecclestone in F1, who's what is he, 90 or whatever, with
yeah.
20 and 30-year-old women on his arm, and you kind of go, really?
And you know something? Okay, marriage, but you know something? I believe that look at Charlie Chaplin. What was he, 99 when he died?
Something like
And
that.
he had some, I don't know how many wives, and heaven
Well,
knows how
he
many
had
children. He had a lot of
kids,
children.
even in
Is
his 80s,
is
he
there
had a
something
child.
there that was keeping him younger, keeping him
Yeah.
and if he'd have stayed with his wife of first time, he might have only lived till he was 70 something, which 70 something, that 70 something back then would have
Yeah.
been a fabulous age. But he lived on till, so could that have that, and could that the personality, and that's the marriage bit. I mean, it's
But
just
again, I think when you're talking about the marriage bit and love, yes, you can be passionately in love with somebody. You can love them. A client that I had, absolutely been, corporate level. And then he got to a point and he wasn't at all kind of angry or vicious against his wife. They were getting divorced. And he said, I totally understand why. He said, because I am not the person
yeah,
that she married.
yeah,
When we got married, he said, I had the same goals, direction as her. I wanted to be top corporate. I wanted the big house. I wanted the flash cars. I
yeah.
wanted the flash holidays. He was now in his late 40s, going into his 50s. And he kind of said, I don't want this anymore.
That's
I
a
don't
massive
want the
change.
expensive clothes and I want a much simpler life. I want to go off and, live a very basic life. I'm not bothered about the flash clothes. I'm not bothered about the cars, the house. I want to downsize. And of course, his wife didn't. She still wanted
Yeah.
that life that she had married. And I thought he was amazing. And we had a couple of sessions, amazing that he could see it, that
Mm.
he now wanted something very different to what his wife wanted. And so it became, I mean, I'm simplifying it, therefore the obvious thing was that they had to get divorced because
Yeah.
one still wanted the original life of 20 years when they met at 20 at uni or whatever, and the other one says, no, I want to go off and without the full details, but it could be something like and this wasn't it. I want to go off now and run a little homestead, put my wellies on,
Yep.
and
Grow everything
grow
and
everything
yeah,
and live
no
off grid.
holidays.
And yeah, I
Yep.
don't want holidays. I want a much simpler life. I mean, you
Yes.
do see that with some people
Yeah.
in terms of, there've been rock stars, haven't they, who suddenly going, I
Oh
can't
yeah.
think of them off the top of my head, who then said, no, I actually want to go and be a farmer. I want to have a homestead.
Yes.
No, I don't want that life anymore. I think there's one, Flavia, who was on Strictly with Jimmy. He was an actor, I think, in EastEnders. And they just decided in lockdown, we don't want this life anymore.
Yes.
And they're now down here in Devon running a farm. And, you see her mucking out with chickens and doing the DIY. And he's now started his own little mini bakery and is baking stuff. And they didn't want that life. But if
No.
one of them had still wanted the limelight, and the
Yes.
other one didn't, then you've got a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to discuss. I just want to just touch on my situation. We're discussing the marriage more important than love sort of thing, but I sort of, I'm basically, and as basic down to as basic as I can take it. I met my wife. We had a number of years of fun and doing what we wanted to do. Then we got a house and settled down and had kids. During that, during that having kids, because we've got four of the blooming things, and they're all gorgeous. I have to say that. None of them probably listen to this because Dad. They'll probably listen to this sort of thing after I've gone. That'll be the thing. Once you're gone, and Jill, that's one of the reasons I love doing these because I know that to Jackson, to my girls, to other people out there, when we've gone, this will be a way of because we can't do this with our parents. We can't hear their voices, can we?
No, no. But the only thing is that, of course, once you stop paying for the podcast, it gets taken off the platforms.
Does it?
Yeah, unfortunately,
Right, they've got to
Jamie.
go back on the YouTube. Got to go back on the YouTube. Oh, where was I going, Jill? I've digressed.
You were talking about your own marriage and having four
Right,
children
yes.
and how when you
Right,
married your
okay.
wife.
So what happens there is I become a different person because now I'm a dad, father,
Mm-hmm.
husband. I've got to provide for the family, for the roof over their heads, the mortgage, the big bills, also that.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me a different person. That made me a different person. I know
Mm-hmm.
it did. Not particularly happy. You're on that treadmill, the rat race.
That's right.
There's a lot of stress, and anybody just started a mortgage and all of that. Honestly, it's a journey.
Jackson's
And
about to do that on Friday. He
yeah,
completes.
and I'm near the end. I'm very close to the end. And um in the last 6 months, 12 months, have been counting down more. I've actually enjoyed watching the mortgage go out years ago, months ago, years ago, decades ago. I hated seeing that money going out the account. I know it was providing a roof over the head and all that, but I became a different person. And I feel now, and this is something I want to discuss in a future one, so we'll make some notes on this one. I feel now I'm getting closer to the end. I'm now becoming the person I was that Lynn did meet all those years ago. All those years of having fun, living at home, doing what we wanted to do on the weekends, no
Yeah.
responsibilities, no, because we hadn't got a mortgage, we hadn't got the bills, we hadn't got the kids, we hadn't got all of that. That does it does take over your life if you're just a
Yeah.
normal person with a normal wage. Yeah, and I should imagine so on the people with even with lots of money or enough money to be able to afford it and not have that stress, they've still got to bring the money in. They've still got the stress on other areas of their life. So there
Yeah.
isn't so to anybody unless they've been left a load of money, left a house, won a load of money. Pretty much we're all going to have a similar feeling, but slightly different. But I feel like I've felt like a few times during a period that I don't want this. I don't want all the, I feel, I'm sure we all go through those moments. I do, where, well, she doesn't love me. She doesn't, she loves the kids more. And we now know that women are bound to love their children more than their husbands because it's their biological offspring. It's so,
We're
um,
connected to them. In
you are,
terms of
yeah,
brain, apparently we still carry the cells in our own
there
brains
you
now. They've
go.
discovered that are also in our children, and we carry them for life. So
There you go.
very interesting piece
So,
of
so
research.
so now I'm feeling that now I'm going to become Jamie Hubbard that I was, and the YouTube channel is part of that, me growing and doing things and doing what I suppose. I mean, YouTube wasn't even around when we got married. It was
Oh,
never,
of
it wasn't.
course.
So
Social
it,
media wasn't, computers
no,
weren't, Jamie.
no,
Let's
90
put this in perspective.
94. So, so
Well, computers were coming in then, but it was the old dial-up
yeah, we
plug-in.
hadn't got a clue, had we, what was going to
No, hadn't
come?
got a
We hadn't
clue.
got a clue. But now I feel I'm coming that person. I suppose what I would have liked all those years ago when I met Lynn was, well, if somebody liked my furniture and if a gallery took it up and if a museum wanted a piece, and then I could have this life of making the lovely furniture I want to make and doing all the things I want to do, and people pay lots of money for it. That was the only sort of aspiration that could have happened back then. Not the internet, not YouTube, not
Mm.
money coming in from people watching
But you'd have had
adverts
other
and things.
pressures because, again, we've got to be really careful when we look back and say, well, if this had happened,
Yes,
then I wouldn't have the worries about the finance. But actually, you'd have other worries
yes,
because then you'd have to have a big workshop. Then you'd be
yeah,
pressure of people wanting you to meet deadlines. Then you'd have to be at the gallery. Then you've got an exhibition to do. Then you, and then. So I
still
think we've
stress.
got to be still stressed, but it's a different
Yeah,
level. And also, we all live to our income. So whilst you're looking at the house you're in and say, it'd be lovely if I had a load of money, I know people who are living in 1, 2, 3 million pound houses who have still got that kind of stress
yes,
because of where they live. And then there's an expectation. Again, we come back really to what you're saying, what other people say about me. There's that expectation because I live in this house that it's kept a certain way, that
I
the
know,
gardens are immaculate, that I
I know.
belong to the golf club, that I do this, that I do that. I would not be, I really would be the good life person in one of those houses because
Yeah,
half my lawn would be dug up and be chickens and ducks and big pond and, a wild area. I know when some people, our neighbours, look at us when they go, across, but they now realise when they cross, over our drive that we deliberately leave a wild area.
yeah,
And okay, they've come to accept that. And they see now in the summer why it's
yeah,
lovely and it's full of bees and butterflies and so on. But I think it's a different pressure. So we've got to be careful that when we look back, we don't go, oh, if only
yeah.
only I'd had that money, then that I would have been that person making all this lovely flash furniture. But then would you have suffered if you take that on to the
Oh yeah,
extreme? I'd have become famous, so then I'd have been in the media, then I'd be facing stuff in the newspaper, then I'd be facing additional criticism,
yeah.
and then people would be picking my
I know,
furniture apart. And
I know.
so I think it is, for
Well,
me, it's been my life and I am who I am.
exactly,
And
exactly.
I
That's
have
what.
reached the point that I want. And
Yes,
that is, I was talking about this literally with my niece last night, that she said, you and Clive look really happy. And you see, and I said, Louisa, I'm content.
yes.
I said, that might sound boring to some people, but we don't want those holidays anymore. We don't
No,
want to go away. We're actually happy at home, you
that's
know?
that's yes,
We're actually happy at home doing what we do. I'm content. It's a much simpler life.
yes.
People would look at us. Yes, we have a lovely house. We've got its own problems going on at the moment, but actually we're content. Clive and I aren't chasing, if that's the
No,
word, or being forced to chase is probably more the way of looking at it,
mm,
a life that other people have.
mm,
And we're doing what we want to do. And that's part of that first sentence. I don't care what other people think.
yeah,
I'm happy doing my willow weaving. I'm happy that I don't buy loads of clothes. I'm happy that I'm passionate about recycle. And again, you've got to be careful that you don't come across then as passive aggressive. So I get into that whole area when somebody asks us about why don't you go on holidays and go flying anymore? And we'll say, well, part of it is that we don't want to fly, it's too much of aggro, and also because we care about the environment and we want to do our own little bit. And then I have to caveat because then people go, well, and you get that look that kind of, oh, so you're having a dig at us then because we go flying all the time. And no, actually, you just,
thank you.
and you go, oh, God, how did I get into this? So I'm really careful to
Yeah,
caveat. You do
yeah.
what you want to do, but this is just that, oh, well, you're pointing the finger because we buy loads of plastic and because we buy, and no,
Oh well, if people take it
you
like that,
know,
in my
but do you see what I mean?
yes,
It's,
I do.
yeah, it goes back to that first thing about, you know, what other people think is none of your business. So
Yeah.
it's what we do. We're happy to do our little bit, and if other people don't want to do it, then they'll do what they want to do. You know, because there's always something I could do more of, I suppose. But well, I know, not just suppose.
If we've got a good case, a good argument for what we do, so long as we're happy, I
Yeah.
think that's
But
it,
again,
isn't
I
it?
don't think we have to have a good
Oh no,
argument.
not an
Do you know what I
argument,
mean?
but
You know what I mean? It's
what I'm
it's
trying to
that good
what I'm trying to say.
case. It's actually,
This
that's
suits
the
us.
bit.
That's it.
Yes, that's the bit that I absolutely agree on the flip side. So I'm coming full circle to that first sentence about what was it? What other people say
What
about
people say
me.
about me is none of my business.
Correct. So therefore I go full circle,
Yeah,
going, actually, because I'm content,
yeah,
because I know who I am, because I like my life,
yeah.
I don't really care. It's none of
No,
my business what other people say, because yeah, I okay, just go faff. Um, yeah, I'm content and happy.
yeah, and me,
And to
and I
me, that
think,
says a lot. And I think that's
yes,
what he's getting at in that
yes,
quote,
I do.
ultimately.
Yes, I think so. And to
But
be
if
in
we're
that
not
position,
careful, it can be taken,
it
like
can.
I'd said, the wrong way. You know, oh, it's none of my business what you think, and I'm just going to cancel you, and I'm not going to listen to you. And no, if you can grow
Yeah.
through it, learn from it, and get to a point of contentment that says, do you know what? If you don't like our wild area of the garden, that's up to you. You know, it's not that I
Mm.
don't care, but I'm doing it for these reasons, but I don't feel that desperate need to justify the whole
Mm.
time. And then it's really, you attract the people who are the same as you.
Vibes. Good vibes.
Vibes.
We
Yeah.
started just before you pressed record. I've got to tell people we have, well, when we start up the podcast, there's this Zoom meeting so that we can see each other, because we do
Mm.
see each other. Jill was having a good hum, weren't you? As I was trying to get audio and visual working, because my laptop's a little bit old,
Yeah.
and the hum, it's good vibes and vibrate. Yes, so there are some people that we're in tune with, and some that's, yeah, maybe not. But
Yeah.
can we just go to the bit that really, really sort of bothers me, um, and
Which
made me
was.
think, which was the looks are more important than the soul, and
Hmm.
think of, because there are lots of people out there, especially on social media, YouTube, whatever. I'm going to say generally, mostly women, maybe young, who can earn money doing certain things, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And if some of them can pay for their house in 12 months' time and buy a house out, well, good luck to them. That's great if that's what they want to do. But I worry, and I don't worry for them. I sort of do. I wonder where they're going to be in 30 years' time when they can't do that thing they were doing to make money. It's a sort of, it's almost a false sort of artificial blip that's going on because of their looks, how beautiful they are, because they're young, and their bodies are fantastic because they're young, and as they get older. But as I think we've touched on, if they then go into, right, well, I'm just going to have my nose done, and I'm just going to have my boobs done, and I
Yep.
need a bit of lip abduction because somebody said I look fat.
Yep.
One person might say I look fat, and it's just, as we go back. So again, looks are more important than the soul, and it can feel like, and I suppose the other thing is, going back to the bit about, we discussed about marriage. We're all getting older, but my wife doesn't look like she did 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I don't look like I did. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes we grow into ourselves. And there's somebody I know who I and he's a TV celeb, and he's a motoring journalist, I should say. And I looked at him when he was 25 years, and I was just like, what do you look like? You're doing this with your hair, and you look like this, and you look like that. Oh my life, you are one funny looking bloke. And I actually I don't mind saying, I was just like, I haven't got time for you, mate, because what you're doing, you just look. And I wouldn't, it was on telly, and I was just
Mm.
like, oh, I'm not bothered about this part of the car because it's him. I'm not
Yeah.
feeling it from him. Now he's in his 50s and he's got grey hair. He's grown into his appearance. He's
Yeah, I
not
know
as
what you mean.
wild with some of the things going on. He looks great. He looks, and at the risk of sounding a little bit like I prefer men to women, he's a bloody good-looking bloke now compared to
Mm,
what I feel he looked like 30 years ago. I thought 25 years ago, I think, God, you look a funny thing. But that can happen as well, can't it? And I just think these girls
yeah.
and things. So as I say,
The
I've
problem is
lost
it's
it.
not just women nowadays,
More important than
it's
the song
guys
now.
as well, you know.
Yeah,
And again, are we chasing something that is unachievable? I've got to keep looking young. Once you start and it becomes addictive, have I got to look like this? Is this the pressure that I'm feeling from society that says I have to
yeah,
do this? You know, am I doing this to buy my house because I've got to have the big house, the big car? I've got to be somebody. And I think that's the sad sometimes thing is people think they have to be somebody
yes,
before they can be happy with themselves. When actually I'm at a level that I'm quite content with who
yeah,
I am, but I am
yeah,
older. You know, I'm not saying that maybe that happened years ago, but I
mm,
don't know. I've grown and I've learned. And you're quite right. I think as you get older, what people say and think about you matters less. So that creates far less stress in your life because
mm,
you're not constantly trying to change yourself, change how you act, change how you behave, change what you say. Oh, this group don't like me. I need to be like this. So that's all additional stress
mm,
to your life when you're younger, rather than going, well, I don't need to buy the designer clothes to
yeah,
go out tonight. You know,
yeah,
so the stress goes, and I'm quite happy to show people what I look like without my makeup in the garden, you know, up to my
yeah,
eyeballs in mud. Uh, that's I don't feel I have to be a certain way, and maybe that
mm,
does come with age because as you grow older, you go through experiences, don't you? You have the challenges, you have the ups and downs, you have the highs and lows, and then it all teaches you who you actually are at the end of the day and what you're
yeah,
happy with.
yeah.
And I think that's important. So
And me.
that's my view on it. Any more on that
No,
quote that we need
I
to?
just because I typically go from one thing to another and flit from here to there. I just want to mention I've got new glasses on, and it looks like Jill might have new glasses on as well. Have
No,
you
these
got
are
new
my
glasses?
old glasses.
Are
No,
they?
I've just, yeah, it's because I was busy reading and writing. I've got my
I'm not used.
glasses on.
I'm not used to seeing
Um,
you in those.
I've had them years. In
Oh,
fact, they
okay.
probably need to be. I think there's a new prescription that will be due when I go for my eye test in November, and then there will be new glasses, I think, at that point. So I've
Well,
done pretty well. I think since I've, you know, over 20 odd years, I've only ever had two pairs of glasses, so
blimey, that's good.
my eyesight's not bad. But yes, and it's that, oh my goodness, how much is this going to cost me?
Yes. Well, mine are just reading glasses, and
Yeah, these are.
I was just walking up the garden, and suddenly I see my glasses on the floor. I was just like, what are they doing down there? Pick them up, and the arm's fallen off. I've got a terrible habit of taking them off, sticking an arm down inside my shirt,
Yeah.
which stretches the neck of my shirts. And I think the arm had just thought, you know what, I'm tired of this,
And
and let
Clive's
go.
got a terrible habit of swinging his glasses around using the arm, if you know
Has
what I
he?
mean.
I
He'll
used to
sit
do
there and
that.
swing it. It's like, Clive, don't do
I
that.
used to do that. Guess why I stopped it?
Yeah. But yes, I
Ah,
think it's important, and that's all about growth
yeah,
and letting go of who you think you need to be. And sometimes that can be, if you're linking it back to marriage, because of the partner that you're
yeah,
with.
yeah,
And if it's right that actually the marriage we realize isn't right, then it's time for me, I think, to go, it's very grown up to just say we want different things from life now.
yeah,
And that is also part of growth. I am certainly not the person I was when Clive met me, you know, and I was busy flying around the world and, you know,
yeah,
the sports car and all the rest of it. So I'm not that person.
no,
I have changed. I've different priorities now.
yeah,
And luckily, I think this is the important bit is that you're very lucky these days if you have somebody who grows with you in the same direction.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's the key, isn't it? If one person develops and grows, which happens a lot, and the other person develops in a different way, then and you want different things in life,
yeah.
then why stay together and battle?
I should imagine you and Clive talk things through, whereas with Lynn and myself, it just happens. I'm not saying we're on the same page every day or every month, but we don't. It's almost
Yeah,
something.
we
I
talk
suppose
about a
it's
lot. I
so
mean, we
slow the
read.
changes,
Correct.
so that you
And
don't. There's no almost
you
no
don't
need for
notice
a
it.
conversation.
Correct.
So there
Absolutely.
you go.
And I think that's it. When I started all of this and doing NLP, I didn't force Clive. And I think that's where you've got to be really careful, that particularly when you do train in coaching and self-development and NLP and all sorts of other therapies, that you don't then try and force your partner
Yeah,
to go and do the same. If
yeah,
they don't want to go and talk about therapy, they don't feel that they've got fears and trauma in their childhood, you
yeah.
saying to them, you need to go and do this, you need to sort it out, I don't think it's actually, the right way,
No,
because again, it's different ways of sorting things out.
there is, and sometimes it's better to let people find it themselves
Absolutely. And that's, I
because
think,
it's going
crucial.
to, in my opinion and in my experience, when you find it yourself, it happens much quicker, much easier.
Yes.
With
Yes, because you
you
wanted
can't,
to.
yeah,
You're not doing it because somebody's told you need to do it. And
yeah.
I think that's really important, to do that. So,
Right. I
right, are
think
we
we're
done?
done.
We're done. Okay, I'll try and come up a from and a to, but
Well,
I'm sure we'll do it.
can I
Are you going
suggest?
to make a suggestion?
I'm going to make another suggestion. Why don't we, your two corners that we use?
Yeah,
Why don't you put the picture of Anthony Hopkins in one bottom corner and the text in the other corner?
it'll be so small. I'm not sure you'd be
But
able
you
to
just
see
see
it, Jamie.
text, and you could write what? Okay, or part of it, or something.
I'll think of something. I'll come
Think of
up with
something.
something. I
Yeah.
will do.
Oh, we're
I
still
will do.
recording, aren't we? Sorry.
Yes.
This is what we do afterwards, people. This is what we do. Right.
Jamie, you have a good few weeks. I've got a busy few weeks coming up. Jackson's moving house, so I'm going to be helping. I'll be in my decorating clothes for a
Wonderful.
while, and I've got some willow to soak because I've got a new willow project on the go that I can't wait to get going with. I'm really excited about that. And I think before our next podcast, yes, I'm doing a willow course after I think our next podcast at the end of October. So a lot
Nice.
going on in October, and before we know it, it'll be November. And again, thank you to all our lovely loyal listeners who listen to our podcast every time it comes out, every 3 weeks. We hope you, as I said before, you get something from it. It makes you think at a deeper level, maybe see things from a different point of view, because we've all got different points of view. And you
Yeah.
know what? That's okay. That's what makes us unique. So everybody have a good few weeks and we'll speak to you soon. Jamie, you take care and speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Jim. Bye.
Bye.